Welcome back to Hendo's Hot Topics, the podcast to distract your mind. Real people and their stories, raw and uncut.
Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to Hendo's Hot Topics. I hope you're doing well, hope you're loving yourself, and I hope you're having an amazing day. So, we have an absolute legend of a bloke coming out of Melbourne, Australia, across the ditch. You might know him as the Mind Tradie. It's James Usher. How's it going, mate?
I'm doing really well, man. Thanks so much for having me on. Definitely an honor, that's for sure.
Beauty, mate. Now, I'd love to start off with asking just honest and as transparent as can be, how's life? How's life really, mate?
Great question. It's most of the time my life is going pretty good. I've got a handle on it, I definitely I still got a handle on it at the moment, but they always go to a different level. They always go up more and more, and I've just noticed recently that just feeling it a bit at the moment, particularly with starting the last level of uni. I just kind of you just kind of get a reminder of like, far out. I'm like, I've got some things going on here because, like, I don't know, like it's just not been getting me down in a bad way, but just energy wise, I'm realizing, all right, I need to make a few adjustments here. You've got some big things happening, and you're feeling it in your body, feeling your mind. So yeah, you need to be careful, like you don't burn yourself out. But other than that, I've got some amazing things happening. I've just got to be careful,
Yeah, well, how do you compensate, mate, when you realize that you are burning out?
Well, I think ironically, like most people will go, I need to have a sleep in. Mine is I got to go. No, I need to go to sleep earlier. I need to get up earlier because I get a real boost to my energy during the day, or even in the morning when I get up super early. So when I get up in the 4 a.m.s, I love it. My body loves it. It's not necessarily easy to do, but once I've done it, my body loves it. Like when I wake up and the alarm goes off, say if it goes off at 4 a.m. or whatever I've set it for, it's not like I'm jumping out of bed going, yes, I love this. But it's like once my feet are planted on the floor, and I'm like, yeah, fucking good on you, man. Good one. It's fucking good. And that's when I love it. But that little things like that, because other than sleep, exercise probably can fall off a little bit, but generally I'm doing all right. Eating, I eat amazingly because I got a plan a couple of years back, or 18 months back, for nutrition, and I've just followed it ever since. And I just have I've been eating basically the same 5 meals, eat basically each day. But so I know when things get busy, I know that's all right. That's not one of the things where I've got to go, am I eating all right? Am I eating junk food? No, I'm not. I eat fucking amazing. So it's like I've generally I run a pretty tight ship. Probably for most people, it's probably too much. It's probably too tight. But that's just, man, my OCD just needs something to have some boundaries in life. So yeah. But there is things I can look at if it is falling away a little bit. There is some things I can do. Meditation would be another one, man. Yeah, definitely. That would be another one if I'm not feeling 100%, or if I'm feeling a bit angry, or if I'm just got thoughts of racing a bit too much, or whatever it is. Definitely might need to meditate. That's another one. Anyway, I've just spoken a whole bunch.
No, what's your form of meditation, mate? Is it going for a walk in the arvo? Is it breath work? Is it just taking time out by yourself?
I would consider the two forms would be just your general kind of exercise kind of stuff, or even walks. That's definitely one. But your more traditional, what would be what now referred to as you say, breath work. That one's the fundamental, because that one's I actually find that one a whole lot harder than exercise. So even if I was to go for a 10 or 15K run, I would find that easier than sitting there for 10 minutes to meditate.
Yeah.
Doing breath work. It's because it's bloody tough. Meditation is tough, but I guess because I'd like to do it to I think a relatively good level of that I've built myself up to over time, just doing breathing in for a certain amount, holding for a certain amount, and breathing out for a certain amount. It's a really traditional kind of sense of one. It's a relatively it's not I don't do it in a simple way, because I do hold for 30, 32 seconds, hold, so breathe in for 32, hold for 32 at the moment, and then I'm breathing out for 32. That's what I've built myself up to. And I started at 4 seconds, 4 in, hold for 4, out for 4. And it's taken me 18 months to get to that stage. And I just really love that, because I know when when you get to the stage where like 20 seconds for each of those stages, and it's like a 1 minute breath, you're doing all right. So that's what I like to fall back to, but it's not necessarily easy. But when you can do like at least a few of those a week, you're doing all right. You know, to a few 5-10 minute sessions, it's a real help. It's definitely a real help.
Well, I'm glad you said that you worked up from 4 seconds because I'm doing 4 seconds at the moment. I feel like I'm going to bloody pass out. So that's
Yeah,
good.
man.
That's all right.
It's a I actually, it was 2020, so it was when we had all the lockdowns and all that down here in Melbourne. Was pretty hectic for that. I'm not exactly sure what it was like for you guys over there, but like nothing was open, gyms were
Yeah,
shut,
yeah, yeah.
everything like. Oh, I guess a lot of the world was like that. But I'm like, I've got to work on my meditation. And I worked it up over that year, and I try to maintain that now. Hopefully I can keep building upon that. I don't know what you can get up to, but I'll just keep going.
Back then you almost needed to do something so you didn't just sit around all day talking to yourself and
Oh,
go
like
loopy.
yeah, like I was fortunately still working, but we were
Yeah.
still because I work in a school. I guess we were some of the fortunate people that still worked, but we just did a lot of it from home.
Yep.
And that was great because obviously, like, how fucking fortunate would I be as was I that like I wasn't some of those people that had to look for work, or not just look for work, but they lost their jobs. And there was not. I guess it was not straight away, but that they people got supported, but that wasn't supported financially by the government. But that doesn't necessarily that doesn't fix everything. There was
Yeah.
far out. Like, so I was really fortunate there, but still, there was still a lot of stresses. And like my uni that I used to be in person on, as in going to class, I had to start transitioning into online, and then I was really trying to do well so I can get into my next level to get some good marks. And it was just obviously a big year. That year was the first year I discovered that when I get to a certain level of, I guess, stress, and I'm not just your normal stress, but kind of worry about a certain kind of thing. I developed alopecia in my hair, on my face, and in my on my scalp, and I
Yeah,
started
yeah.
losing my hair. But luckily, it all came back. But it was 2020 was the year that I realized, fucking hell, I need gyms to be open, as in 90% of the population do too. But it's the
Yeah.
first time I haven't had like a place to go and exercise, like an escape. So I was doing like running and weights at home and that kind of stuff, but it just didn't like do the same thing. So yeah, luckily, like that was a real learning thing for me to go, okay, like you need to be able to shut off and settle even more than what you have been, because I do not want to ever have to go through that again if I can help it. Because I don't know, man. Like I felt really like that was probably the last time I'd felt not great. It was like 3 years ago, as in like never went to like the dark places that maybe I did when I had started losing my vision like 12 years ago. But bloody yeah, when I started to develop alopecia, I'm like, fucking something's going on here, and I
Mm.
really need to do some work. But you know how I feel so fortunate though that with our brain and our body and mind, we've got this great connection. So my body, and I guess including the mind, was telling me something's not right. You got to do something. You've got to either find a way to relax more, or it's not just about relaxing and meditating. It's like, what is this thought or
Mm.
thoughts that are actually worrying you? And I guess over time, and I was kind of able to do that. But what I'm really thankful for is the fact that like my my body's decided to give me something. So losing my hair, and that's something I'm going to react to and do it in a place that I'm going to be really conscious about.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because like if I started losing like my chest hair, I'd be like, oh, fucking who cares?
Finally.
That's almost helpful. So like how fortunate that like there's that connection, because I'm also that type of person that potentially, like so many other people, grew up with certain stress or whatever it is in their life, and I almost I've built it's a healthy resilience still, but I can also put up with stress that I probably shouldn't, because
Mm.
like we just grew in that world where that was around, or you didn't think a whole lot about yourself, or you didn't think you were worthy, or whatever it was. And if you grew up thinking that, even as an adult, you can forget that that's not right. And there's something in there where I'm like, like, thankfully my body was kicked in and said, no, you need to do something, and we're giving you a sign. So yeah, really, really fortunate to have that.
Yeah, that is and like you see, it happened in a area where you actually took action. Like we
Yeah.
said, the chest hair. You almost like, oh bloody finally, don't have to keep getting rid of that.
Yeah, it was like that. Definitely, that's just the thing, man. I'm not sure if everyone would agree if they developed it, but I know like that it's gone. Look, we need to give him something where he's going to take
Yeah,
notice,
yeah, yeah.
and I fucking certainly did. Like there was a time where I got really super conscious about it. Luckily, I had, because the hairdressers weren't open. My hair was long, and I got to slick it back and cover it up a little bit, but on my face, I by like I have these big patches, like I don't
Mm.
know, nearly 5 centimeter patches, just about of hair missing. It was really, well, to me, it was noticeable, and it looks, because by like 5, 6 o'clock in the day, like you're getting like the stubble coming through, and you kind of notice this big patch on my face. I got super conscious about it. So yeah, but we're done. We're kind of done with that now, and that was just even through that process of like trying to figure out what was actually causing the stressor. Like the COVID wasn't the stressor; it just like brought something to the surface.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was kind of able to work my way through that. So yeah, anyway,
Mean,
interesting
mate.
one.
Now, this is a big couple of words for me, but provisional psychologist. What on earth is that, my friend?
Yeah, okay. So what that means is that I have done enough study in psychology now that I have been registered as a provisional psychologist. So basically, what that means is it's like a probationary psychologist. I'm not sure what it's like in New Zealand, but when you first get your license, do you get like a P plate or something like that?
Yeah, yeah, got you, mate. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
so it's
yep.
it's like that. And yeah, I've done the, 90% of the study required to be registered as a general psychologist, but I've just got to do this last 2 years. So it's 1 year of study, which I will do over 2 years because I do it part time, and then I've got to do 1 year of internship working somewhere in a school like I do. So I've got
Yeah.
another 2.5 years or so, and I'll be a fully registered psychologist. But just in the meantime, just to be able to get this general registration, provisional registration, is absolutely massive for me. It's easily the biggest thing I've ever worked on to bring into my life. Like easily, like I've done a lot of things in my life. I used to run my own business as a tradesman. I've done kickboxing before. I had nearly 10 fights as a kickboxer, and that was massive for me. But being able to work this work this thing over, I studied basically, geez, what was it, like eight, nearly 9 years doing my bachelor's part time and doing my honors, prior to getting into now. Like, it's to be so consistent and working hard and not giving up, and there was big doubts and all that kind of stuff. To be able to get to this point last year where I got accepted in, like I had to get an interview to get into the masters, or to get into this last part of study, and I had to do an interview with the university, and then it was like 3 days later that I was supposed to get notified whether I was going to get in or not, and I didn't end up seeing the email till like 5 days later, so I didn't think I'd got it. And then when I saw it, like, man, I cried twice
Yeah.
that day. Like, it was dead set. Like, I literally changed that day, and I don't mean, how can I explain it? What Something changed in me, because it was this level of acceptance that I'd finally given myself, because I was always someone, and I still am, but there's just, I was so hypercritical of myself. Like, I just until I had actually been accepted into things, or people had accepted me, or whatever it is, not just in uni and just life in general. I had the understanding or belief that people didn't really like me, people didn't really want me, people, I wasn't deserving of all these things. So to then be able to work for something that meant so much to me and then get accepted into it, um, it was really powerful for me. And it wasn't just about getting accepted into a group, but it was like the acceptance of myself, to be able to go, no, I stuck by myself for all those years, and I still am, and I didn't give up even when it was super hard, and I've done it with bloody 10% vision, because of my vision
Mm.
impairment. I've done it with a, working full time, and I've done it by having a child. I've done it at a hardest time I potentially could, and I wasn't a student when I started. I had to learn to become one. That was just this great acceptance on me, and I think it was well, no, nobody has to kind of give me that acceptance anymore. I don't have to chase that. It's like it's all on me, and I
Yeah.
gave that to myself. And I remember floating on air for a month, nearly two, just being this is amazing. I'd reached this next level of consciousness because of how hard I'd worked, and it was just a really rare moment in life. So I guess on paper, what it means is that I'm at my last stage of study in psychology. But that meant for me in life was potentially one of the biggest things I've ever done, the biggest thing I've done, for just working hard at something and just not giving up and just getting it. And that's what that kind of means to me, just personally.
That's bloody wicked, bro. You said during that there was a lot of doubt, and if it was it self-doubt, and if it was, what did
Mm.
it take for you to stop listening to that self-doubt along the
Yeah,
journey?
that's a really good question. Because I still have access to self doubt
Yeah.
where it used to be far more in I guess was at a much higher level than what it used to be. But just particularly over time, and I can kind of remember it was over the last 5 years or so where I really began to start to battle it. Or I guess I've started to battle it even since as a teenager, when I became conscious that I wanted to feel more than what I did. And
Yep.
I made that conscious thought to do that. But particularly over the past 5 years or so, when I realized there were certain behaviors that I needed to change, um, like if I wanted to achieve these certain things. And the amazing thing that I've learned is so you can have self doubt, which will then lead to, I guess, further thoughts about not being good enough, and which will then lead to behaviors and actions and things that you'll undertake that will further increase your belief of not being good enough. Because
Mm.
certain actions and behaviors have this certain energy with them. They have thoughts with them. They have feelings with them. So the way we're acting can ultimately determine how we feel as well. So I'm like, well, I need to act like someone that believes in themselves more. So one of the things that I started to do, particularly in 2017, I had this thought one day. I'm like, well, all the people that I listen to, whether it be audio books or people I followed on Instagram back then, and the big people that I love every time they talk. They all said get up early, and I'm like, I need to start getting up early. And this is back in 2017 or going into 2018, when I'm like, I'm going to start getting up at 4:30. I'm going to start doing that 5 days a week, or whatever it is, 6 days a week, and I'm going to start tracking my time. And if I don't do it well, I'll bloody, I'll fine myself $50 or something like that to make myself accountable. And I tracked it all through the year, literally all through the year. I tracked it in this Google Doc. Um, so that was the moment that I realized that I ultimately have the control over my self doubt. So I could have a self doubt, well, about anything, or even just life in general, as in I'm not good enough in life, and then I will, if I'm not conscious of it, I will act that way, like I used to, even when I was a single man, and I used to think I wasn't good enough to talk to girls, so I wouldn't talk to girls, and then they wouldn't probably talk to me, and
Yeah.
or if they, I would have to wait for them to talk to me before I felt comfortable, or I didn't think I was good enough to get the job that I wanted back in the day, or whatever it is. I'm like, I gotta stop thinking like that. I've got to I'm ultimately with the behaviors that I'm having that followed on from those self doubting thoughts. I'm basically starting this self fulfilling prophecy, which I'm not sure if you've heard of that, but it basically means if you have this thought, it will then lead to certain behaviors around that, like what I just explained, and then you'll have certain experiences from those behaviors, and then you can reinforce those negative self-doubting thoughts. But you can make something else happen as well, where you can have more positive self-believing thoughts, which then lead to more self-believing behaviors, which then lead to more experiences which reinforce your, I guess, more self-believing
Hmm.
thoughts, and then it reinforces your self-belief. It's like, which cycle do you want to go in? and I kind of discovered that, like, I was basically acting like someone who didn't have much self-belief. I'm like, well, that's fucking on me. That's got nothing to do with childhood stuff or the way I was treated by other people or what kind of, whether I had shitty parenting when I was younger or shitty experiences when I was younger. Like, that's fair enough, but it's on me how I'm feeling now. Even eating better and putting enough effort and energy into the way that you eat and the way that you exercise, all those little things that you do. So yeah, man, like I still have access to self doubt sometimes, but the volumes turn way down on it.
Yeah, it's more how do you turn that self-sabotage into self-fulfillment, eh?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And also, so like using that term self sabotage was because that was also something that I still can do
Yeah.
sometimes, as we all can. And I'm like, well, why? Why would someone like me, as switched on as I am to a lot of mental health stuff and personal growth, self development stuff? Why would I be still doing that? And I needed to find out why. And like one of the most common reasons why, and particularly for myself, was that I had a fear of rejection, a fear of
Mm.
rejection of people. I guess getting not being good enough for certain experiences, certain people, but also I had a fear of rejection of myself because I think uh, if I used to think if I put myself out there and I didn't do what I wanted to do or thought I could do,
Yep.
I would be so harsh on myself, man. I'd be my worst fucking critic, and that I think I was scared of myself. So I'm like, well, I don't need to be scared of myself. And if I'm not scared of myself, I definitely don't need to be scared of anybody else because I'm the one that's like, controlling this ultimately. Like if how I feel about a situation, how well I'll do in it, or how I feel afterwards, whether I complete it or whether I'm truly successful or the outcome turns out the way that I want or not. Like it's on me. I'm like, well, what have I got to do? What have I got to do to ultimately like put everything out there and still be okay? And I guess the answer was even in the question. I'm like, well, put everything out there. Work as hard as you can. Work as hard as you can on things when you can, and I guess do big things when you can. And like try not to hold yourself back. That is automatically causing, I guess, creating a better safety net for me
Mm.
rather than holding myself back and giving myself a cushion to fall back on if it failed. And that's what I used to do. So the self sabotage was like, no, I'm going to fuck it up for myself just in case it doesn't work out. But I've got an excuse like, or I wasn't getting up earlier, or I wasn't really trying as hard as what I should, or whatever it was. But that's just a safety net I was creating out of fear. And I'm like, I don't want to do that anymore. Like, I want to put everything I can out. So yeah, that was when I also had to get a much more, I don't know, much more aware of.
Yep. Yep.
And so yeah, that definitely helped out.
Now, you do one-on-one coaching, and now I'm curious from you saying that, mate, is
Mm,
even though when you're doing the coaching with an individual, you're being very beneficial to them. But in
mm.
a sense, now that you've said that, I want to ask is, do you almost find yourself talking to this person, and you almost feel like you're talking to yourself that you're trying to prove wrong or trying to improve?
Look, that can come up sometimes, but
Yeah.
look, if there was something that is like it's almost like it's a rule I reckon for psychology, for
Yep.
counseling, and it'd be in for coaching too, is try not to do that
Mm.
because you can have your thoughts and that kind of stuff influenced by your own scenarios.
Yep.
So you'll see certain things come up a lot and go, oh yeah, I guess I used to do that or whatever it is. But you try not to do that. You have to try and separate how you feel about a situation or how what you might have done. You've got to try to completely try and put yourself as this person in their scenario. How would they
Yeah.
think? How are they feeling? But yeah, totally, man. I get what you're saying, and it does come up. Yeah, I think good coaches have to try, or good psychologists and therapists, or whatever, have to try to separate that. But it does come up occasionally.
Yeah, love that. And that would that is something I guess just in life in general,
Mm,
being having such a powerful asset to your mind as a tool is being able to not just with the scenario of psychologists and counseling, but just with
mm,
life in general when you have to find yourself separating yourself from the situation you're in. That is an
yeah,
amazing asset to have.
yeah. I don't necessarily always do it when my wife might be bickering. Sometimes I need to separate. I need to separate myself a bit more and be like, "What is she thinking?" But yeah, like it can be really handy. But yeah, there's certain areas where I could do it better. But yeah, man, and it is definitely a good tool. It's just even just being able to work with people, whether it be therapy, coaching, psych,
Yeah.
like just I guess people that I work with in the high school, I work with young people here, or even just if you met someone that wasn't having a good time on the street, or whatever it is, it's like being able to have that connection with them, like empathy, like they empathetically listen to them.
Yep.
That's a real gift that I'm so fortunate that I was able to just, I guess, enhance over time. But I didn't even realize it was a gift because I just naturally probably always had it. But I didn't realize that it can really help me out. And not a lot of people even have any idea how to do that.
Yeah.
They don't know how to talk to people. They don't know how to put it in there, put themselves in other people's shoes. And the other thing is, it's like actually being able to listen to people like what you are to me now, just really listening. That's a real gift that a lot of people just don't have. And my brain works overtime 99% of the time. But what with you and I are chatting, or if you were talking to me in a coaching or whatever it is session, or even just like now you and I are talking, I've got the ability to luckily switch off. So my day could be hectic, but if I'm doing a session with someone, or if I'm having a conversation with someone that needs to, and for some reason I've just got this ability to tune everything out,
Mm.
except for what they're telling me. And I feel so fortunate that I've got that. It's probably something I really used to dislike about myself,
Yeah.
those things, because I almost cared about life, and I cared about myself, and I cared about other people too much. But when I was younger, like people I was hanging out with, they didn't give a fuck, and life seemed easier for them because they didn't give a fuck.
Yeah.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean? But now I'm realizing, like what I used to dislike about myself, they're like some of my greatest assets. So
And
yeah, it's good to be able to harness them.
yeah, yeah, and especially, I mean, I'm only 20, mate, but being able to realize, your vulnerable, your vulnerable side to yourself when you're younger, and able to use that what could have been negative at the time into positive as you get older, is just such an amazing feeling.
Yeah, yeah, totally, man. And it's like I'm 39 now, so guess I'm learning a lot about myself in my 30s. But I guess it's not necessarily supposed to happen at an age. It just happens when it does,
Yeah,
like.
fully agreed.
And like, I guess I probably didn't always know that. I used to think, why are you not doing this now? Why are you not doing that? But you just, when it happens, when that moment happens, and you kind of get that relaxation of like, no, no, it's supposed to happen when it is. And
Yeah.
like, I guess a lot of things happen for a reason. All that thinking that you used to have before, like all that pressure just kind of dissipates, and you realize, oh no, I'm doing all right. Like those moments are rare, but they're fucking good when they're there.
Yeah, my journey and milestones are happening when they're meant to. Now,
Yeah.
you're saying, bro, how you work with high school students. I would love to ask, especially
Mm.
in the times we just had, what's a piece of advice you'd have for high schoolers coming out of high school into the real world now? 'Cause especially because most of their high school, well, majority of
Mm.
their high school was lived on a computer, and a lot of them may miss that social aspect and confidence going out into the real world now.
Mm, I think probably from one of my best pieces of advice. Now, this does involve my own experience because
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
almost
yeah.
like, if I was able to say something to myself, even though I wouldn't have listened as a teenager, is just like that time, like it's an important growth period through a lot of lessons that you've got to go through, like a lot, especially socially, but even just academically as well. But it doesn't really mean that much because
Mm,
you could go through this time and you could have had a great time. I know people that had a great time in high school and they are not having a great time now. And
yep.
I know people like myself that fucking hated high school for a whole bunch of reasons, but we're doing really well now. So it's not the be all and end all. Regardless of what happens, it's like as long as you kind of try and stay focused on, like, find something that you want to do, find something you want to do, whatever it may be, and just like work towards that. What happened in high school doesn't really matter. There's a way to make what you want to make happen, as long as you kind of don't give up on that. Like if there's a will to do something, there is definitely going to be a way to do it.
Yeah.
Try and work with your skills. So if your skills are like yourself, you're talking, you got a podcast, whatever it may be, like those little gifts that you've got that probably no one else has, and everyone's got them to varying degrees. It's like working and trying to find that. So it's like high school, yeah, like it can be great for some people, but not for everyone for a whole bunch of reasons. So
Mm.
if anything, I realized that even though I hated high school, but it was like an apprenticeship for me to for me to have knowledge how to work with people now.
Yeah, that's actually a really good way to look at it. It's almost a teaser, a teaser to a movie.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah, but
you,
yeah, that's the thing, man. It is totally agree.
yeah, yeah. I would like to know, mate, where did your love for your love for understanding and learning around the brain and how our emotions run us and how we can control them, where did their love for that come from?
I think there was a time, say when I was 26. I'm not sure if you've know. Look, I'm not chatted to you about it specifically before,
Yeah.
but when I was 26, I lost most of my vision,
Yep.
so I've only got 10% vision now. Obviously, people probably couldn't tell. It doesn't come across for a lot of the time. But anyway, so when that happened, I had to do a lot of learning about myself.
Yep.
So because like I was kickboxing back at the time, I was running my own business and training and working like it was 6, nearly 7 days a week. I was really busy, kind of as probably happy as what I could have been back then with what I knew about life and that kind of stuff. And then when that happened, and I lost about 90% of my vision in about 2 months, and I had to give up my license, so I couldn't drive anymore. Like I had to give up my business, all this kind of stuff, like all the things that I guess found self worth and value in, and that I had to give up, and didn't exist in my life anymore because I literally couldn't do them. I had to find new ways of I guess being happy, and I'm really fortunate that like when it got really hard, like my brain kicks into gear, and I'm like, no, 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 I've got to find a way here. Like I remember when I'd been given the official news of what kind of eye condition I had. And originally I was told that I was going to see nothing one day, but fortunately that's not the case. I've still got 10%. But back in the day, like early on, I was told I was going to see nothing. And after my appointment with this brain specialist, like a neurologist who I was first seeing, I came home and I'm like I just started crying on my decking in the front of the house, and but not like it wasn't a sad cry. It was just like this release of emotions, of
Yeah.
release of feelings. And and I'm just like, no, 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 like I'm gonna be happy still. I will find a way to be happy. And um and like how fortunate that I think like that. Like that's I think that's where it started. And I remember like having thoughts in my head. Like I felt like I was going insane when I wasn't working. Don't get me wrong, it was really, really tough. Like I had dark times, but I never gave up in those dark times. Like there was nights where I'd stay up all night because that's how my brain was working overtime. Then I'd sleep all day because I was so depressed.
Yeah.
But I just never gave up in that. Like I will always kind of push through, even through unhappy times, because I must know that there's something on the other side. But one of the things that I realized was, like, for me to be able to get through this, the thoughts that were coming through were like, you need to have a better relationship with yourself. You need to feel better about yourself, and then that's one of the things that'll get you through. Like that's another thing. How fortunate that I am, man, that I had thoughts like that, rather than having thoughts that tell me to harm myself and I don't want to
Yeah.
live anymore, or something like that, which people could easily do in my situation. The amount of people that would have gone, that's what I would have said to myself, well, that's what I would have done. Like, I am super fortunate that I don't think like that. And one of the things I've kind of learned over time is, for those people that may have gone through that and thought like that, or maybe even harmed themselves, whether permanently, or done some other things, like the difference between me and somebody who does have those thoughts is just literally a coping mechanism. So my coping mechanism was to go, no, 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 I'm going to be happy. I'm going to find a way. And the people that might think about harming themselves, that's just a coping mechanism. It's not a weakness thing. And my one wasn't necessarily a strength thing. It's just two different ways of thinking. So they may be in their DNA, or in their, biology. So biologically, they're predetermined to have thoughts like that when things get that way. And maybe for some reason I had this DNA or through biological stuff. It's like I had thoughts that just that don't tell me that. And so I guess I want to share that kind of stuff with the world. And the analogy that I've kind of had was like, some people just are great at business. They're just naturally gifted at business, and they didn't have to go to uni. They didn't have to go to high school. They're good at business. They're good at making money. They're fucking great. And I guess mine was just kind of like that. Like, I know how to survive.
Yep.
I had a good baseline for how to do that kind of stuff. And where, I guess, to answer your question I just want to learn more about it. I want to learn about psychology. I want to learn about the brain and all that kind of stuff, and just putting my natural ability to like not give up, to kind of give people some good energy, good motivation, whatever it is, and putting that together with my studies. It's been a great combination, man. I fucking love it. I love it so much because like what it kind of can show people is that, say, through being what a lot of people talk about today, being vulnerable, like the word you used before, it's like that vulnerability to that moment in time being, I guess, letting your guard down to someone or to yourself, or like me crying on the deck, whatever it was, it then goes to further strength. That it's like a part of the process. So even crying is part of this cycle, particularly for men, but that we had blocked crying for a whole bunch of reasons. Like, I don't know, maybe people told us when we were younger, when we were weak if we did, or something like that. And maybe some people do feel weak when they cry, whatever. But it's a part of a cycle that when you can have an experience, you feel an emotion or feel emotions, and you can kind of let it out by crying. If it's big enough, you got to let it out by crying. Fucking do it. Like when you need to do it, absolutely do it, because then a cycle can complete and you can get stronger. So that moment in time where you felt weak or you didn't feel as strong, it will pass. And just little things like that, man. I just love it. And I love learning about the brain, the things that, like, I can fully just nerd out on the brain, man. But like just if you want me to talk about my favorite parts of the brain, I can absolutely do that, bro. I'll let you talk now.
No, go on in.
Okay. So, sometimes I get so caught up in this stuff, man. I'm like, fuck, I've just spoken for like.
Well, it's
15
bloody
minutes.
good. You're starting to be a psychologist there, mate.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks. Yeah, so I guess the thing, my favorite thing to learn about in the brain, that I think anybody can get things from. So like there's known to be like at least 3 different like major sections of the brain. So we've got the back brain, which is like helps control heartbeat, body temperature, and breathing. And the middle part of our brain, I'm kind of overgeneralizing, so they obviously go into a lot more detail. But the middle part of the brain is what's called the limbic system, or it's like our fear center and our emotion center in the middle part of our brain. And the front part of our brain is where we have the prefrontal cortex or the neocortex, and that is associated with like rational thinking and problem solving. So front brain, rational thinking, problem solving; middle part of the brain, fears and emotions; and back brain, absolute survival state. So what I learned about was like when we have, say, our fight, flight, or freeze response that we can be triggered on a daily basis, depending on, I guess, your coping mechanisms, what you learned when you were growing up, what kind of experiences you might have had. You know how some people can be triggered a lot easier than others.
Yep.
Even if we get angry a lot of the time, like whenever we're kind of showing like strong emotions that not so good ones. It probably means our fear response or threat response has been switched on and it's turned on, I guess, the sympathetic nervous system, and we're kind of heightened. And what that ends up doing is it's really strongly activating the back part of our brain, the I guess the survival state, and the middle part of our brain where there's fears and emotions. And what I find so intriguing about that, particularly for myself, is because I would have lived in that state for most of my life, because there was a lot of domestic violence when I was younger. I wasn't treated that great for a whole bunch of reasons that people didn't feel a whole lot about themselves, and then the way they parented me wasn't always that great. That's a whole other episode, man. But what I can go into if you want later. But anyway, about the brain. So I would have lived in that back part of my brain, the middle part of my brain. And when I'm like living in those states, or like having those 2 parts of my brain so strongly activated, I'm not accessing the front part of my brain, which is I've got actually got answers to all these questions. I've got clearer
Yeah.
thinking, and it's like a more of that real version of me, that real authentic version of me, not one that is through for a fear state, not one that is constantly on edge, not one who's fucking angry all the time. And like, like when I was younger, I'd be like, no, like that person fucking did this, and they're trying to disrespect me, or this, no, fuck them. Because I used to be really angry, man.
Yeah.
And what I realized is like simply by being angry all the time, I'm almost a real simple way to put it would I'm almost making myself dumber because I'm not giving myself access to that rational thinking and
Yeah.
problem solving. And so doing things like what we spoke about before, which was meditation or exercise at a consistent level, you can start bringing yourself down and start accessing that other parts of your brain, which for most of my life I wouldn't have had any idea about. And
Yeah.
even just now, when I kind of settled myself down and I can start feeling it kick in. And man, I love that. It was my favorite thing to learn about the brain, because I'm like, I was not living in the front part of my brain for most of my life. And, like I was always on edge. What's this person thinking? And do they like me? Or do I need to get more respect from them? Or I've got to do this to them? Or I've got to, like it
Yeah.
just, man, life used to be so hectic like that. And then, what I loved was, so there is some things I can do to settle myself down, whether it's sitting down on the ground meditating, or going for a hard run, or whatever it is, like eating healthy, even like
Yeah.
that's one of my favorite things to learn. I will never forget that, because I'm like, everyone can take something from that, because everybody can get triggered. And then when we get triggered, like by little things, whether it's at work or relationships, family stuff, boyfriends, girlfriends, whatever the hell it is, the thing about our brain, and the thing about the fear center in our brain, it doesn't recognize the difference between, say, thousands and thousands of years ago, when we developed this part of our brain, we evolved this part of our brain. It doesn't recognize the difference between an actual threat to our life, or a little bit of a little thing of, say, at work, or a relationship issue, or the feeling rejected by a
Like a little
relationship
hiccup.
breakdown. It's not great at distinguishing between
Yeah.
those two things. And the reason why it's not great at distinguishing between those two things is because it doesn't fucking care. There's a part of it in that fear center in our brain that kicks on that fight or flight. It doesn't care, because it just wants to know that you're going to survive. It doesn't. It's the front part of our brain that kicks in to distinguish whether it's real or not. That when the fear center kicks in, which is this little, it's like a peanut-sized part of our brain called the amygdala, which is always switched on.
Yeah.
And we a lot of the stuff it's switched on to, we don't even know. It's picking up things in our environment that it's been designed that we don't have to consciously think about. It's look for everything. What's that person saying? What's that thing doing over there? It's like and when it can find something that may have triggered you before, that might have hurt you before, or you may have, felt not great before, whatever it is, when it sees things like that, or particularly when it's got to do with fear of rejection, fear of shame, fear of getting hurt in some way, it's fucking going overtime. But it takes us to kind of deliberately settle ourselves down before we can start thinking clearly again. And yeah, I just like, man, I love this stuff so much, because everybody could get so much out of it. Because just say, for example, if you were to meditate consistently and you were someone who'd never meditated before, you're literally giving yourself access to a part of your brain, or part of your consciousness, where you will have, I guess, better ideas, more positive problem solving, better, more positive, rational thinking to whatever you have going on. And I guess how I like to think about it for myself and anybody else, but particularly for myself, like when you have something that you can't figure out, you need a solution to something maybe stressing you a bit, whatever it may be. It's like when you can like aim to switch that threat response off, or that heightened self off, and you can start to think clearer. That's where answers are going to be. Your greatest answers are not going to be when you have your threat response kicked on. Like, a threat response is handy sometimes when it's actually a threat to our life.
Yeah.
When thousands of years ago, when we might have been running with wild beasts and trying to gather food, whatever it was, it was handy then. But now it's not as much. And what we need to do is gain better control over that, and we can have access to a far clearer, healthier more intelligent way of thinking.
And the thing I love about you, mate, is that you're so willing to go in depth and share it. That's the thing. Which makes me want to ask is, where did the Mind Tradie come from? Was it a platform that you can enable to share on a larger scale?
Yeah, it was because that's a good question as well. So thanks for asking that. I must have done it. I just love motivating people
Yeah,
for something, for just to get more I guess, out of themselves, out of their lives, whatever it is. And it was back like in 2013, 2014. I started the Mind Tradie, and the Mind Tradie comes out of like because I literally just used to be a tradesman running my
yeah,
own
yeah,
business, and now I guess I build minds, build my own mind, and I help build other people's minds as well. So that's kind of where it started. And I'm like, yeah, like I love sharing this stuff. I feel a real sense of purpose in life. I'm sure you'd feel the same way with your podcast as well. Like for you to
yeah, mate.
sustain
Yeah.
all these episodes is there's and sustained passion for it as well. Like there's a sense of purpose in it, and I guess kind of that's what I felt as well.
I want to ask you, mate, along your journey,
Mm.
it's just sprung to mind now. Along your journey, I'm putting you on the spot a bit, but a memorable moment, something that's stuck with you that you're proud of yourself, mate, especially earlier on, with a lot of self doubt toward yourself,
Mm.
growing up and later on in life. What's something that you've been really proud of, and you've been like, okay, I'm glad I stuck through my difficult hand of cards and I kept going.
Mm. Yeah, I think the ones that probably there's two that probably stick out for me the most would be
Yeah,
even say prior to me losing my vision. Like, man, I used to think, particularly through teenage years, like when there was a when I grew up, there was like domestic violence, as I said, from a stepfather and a whole bunch of other stuff from a stepmom on the other house where I lived, and that kind of I didn't think that much of myself at all, and because of like I used to be really hyper, like on edge, and like I'd be a kid that had like symptoms of ADHD, and technically I probably could get that diagnosis these days, but I used to wet the bed up until the age of like about 14,
yep,
something maybe even nearly 15, just because it's really common for people to do that in those kind of environments. And so I grew up thinking through teenage years and younger 20s that I was this no good piece of shit, and I was a wimp. I used to think I was a wimp
yep,
up until about the age of about 19, and I started to do things where I'm like, nah, I'm not going to feel like that anymore. But probably the more proudest moment around that for someone who didn't think a lot about themselves, didn't think that they were tough. When I jumped into the ring as a kickboxer, that was a huge one for me.
mm,
That was a real big one, and that was still looking back. That was probably the potentially one of the one of the biggest life changing things for me
yep,
because it's like what I was saying before earlier on. It's like that's an action for someone who maybe they don't realize I guess how strong they are, but someone who does that and has a few fights, you end up feeling really strong,
yeah,
and
bro,
particularly to get smacked around and give hits as well, like and to be able to never give up, and to be able to have people say to me like, I remember I had this guy in my last fight, it might have been my last fight. This guy said to me, and he went on to have like world fights and titles as well, or at least
yeah,
going for them. So he was a decent fighter. He ended up saying to me after the fight, I said to my trainers, I'm like, this guy's not going down. I'm like, why is he not going down? And like, I wasn't necessarily like the best fighter. I was just a good brawler. Like I loved
yeah,
loved
yeah,
fighting, but
yeah, yeah,
I loved being tough because that's when I never felt that before.
yeah,
And to be able to say, well, like this guy might beat me on points or whatever it is, or like, but I wasn't gonna like go down and stay down. Like I was gonna always just keep going, getting back up. And I guess that's a reflection on I guess how I am in life. So that was a pretty big one for me.
And the love for being tough, was that to prove yourself that you
Yeah,
can, and you
yeah.
can do it?
I definitely wasn't doing it for anybody else.
Yeah, love that,
I
mate.
guess I was doing it for myself because, as I said, like I grew up thinking I was this fucking wimp.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
couldn't talk to girls properly and all this kind of stuff, and I guess I still can't really. But, but like, man, it's like to go from I don't think it that much of myself and I'm scared to then being able to go, no, I can stand in this pub like this, wherever we are, and I can get hit by someone, and I know I'm not going to like stay down. I'm going to handle
Yeah,
myself, like, and even now, like I've lost 90% of my vision, and having that confidence to be able to still go, oh, you know what, I'm going to go out, and I'm not going to care what happens because I might not be able to see very well, but I can fucking handle myself. And it's I just know I guess I can be tough enough to survive or help myself or help my family or whatever it is. And I just to be able to get that for myself, man, it was a big moment for me to be able
Yeah,
to do
that's
that. I think
awesome.
that was a big one in my 20s, but the other one would have been probably the most significant recent one would have been I guess when I got accepted into my last level of study. And as I said, I know what involves in an external thing, but it was the internal feelings that of not giving up on myself, working something on for so long. Say, for an nearly 10 years I've been studying technically
Yeah.
now. Like to be able to do that and then have this moment where I'm like, oh, yeah, I can relax for a little bit now. That was really cool. Really cool. Well, that's
Yeah.
man. Sorry, I
No, no,
just
no,
cut
you're
you
all
off.
right, mate. Keep going, James.
I was gonna say, like, that's the thing people don't realize about like personal growth or improving mental health or even working on mental illness that you might have. It fucking takes time.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of time, but it's not how long it takes. It's like connecting to something. So when you connect to, say, a decision that you made that you want to improve your life in some way, you want to learn about yourself, you want to feel more about yourself, you want to have more belief in yourself, whatever it may be. Like these things take time, but it really doesn't matter like how long it takes. It's how quickly can you connect to that journey. That's the best thing. Rather than living like with a life without any purpose, or not being connected to yourself or connected to a purpose in some way. It's like the quicker that you can do that, not
Mm.
how long it takes for a journey to or a process for finish or whatever it is, or how long will it be before you finish what you want to work on. It's like connect to that, and that's the more important thing.
I think the most beautiful thing from an onlooker listening and envisioning your story, mate, is you've turned the tides. As a younger self, mate, you were saying you're a piece of shit. You're weak and
Yeah.
all that sort of stuff, mate. To now, 9 years deep in a study where most people would have probably given up in 2 years, and you're still going, okay, what next? What else can I
Mm.
smash out of the park? That's really powerful in itself.
Yeah, thanks, Ace, man. Yeah, that's really cool for you to say that. I guess, I know I've worked hard, but I am fortunate that I do have a mindset that will keep going. So I guess that's the thing. It's like if I do have like access to I guess a good way of thinking, like I'm going to use it. That's the
Yeah,
thing.
bro.
A lot of people don't realize the gifts that they've got. Even just like here I am. I was initially worried about how much vision I was going to lose, and then one day I'm like, I've still got fucking 10%. I've
Yeah,
still
yeah,
got
yeah,
10% of
yeah.
my vision. Man, like so. I like it's kind of. I guess I feel fortunate to be able to have that way of thinking. Like I do obviously. I'll keep going for a long time, pushing this for a long time, and eventually I'll have to back it off a little bit. I won't be able to sustain this momentum, but it's here for now, and it'll stay around for as long as it will. I'll have to relax a little bit, but I'm going to use it for as long as I can. Because it's just I've got some things to work on, I have been. But like I feel really fortunate to be able to connect to these things with people, connect to these things with me, have these experiences I've had. Like
Yeah,
every experience I've had, whether it be through childhood stuff or losing my vision, like I am really fortunate. I'm really
yeah,
fortunate that I had these because it's helped me become the person that I am. And I guess when you can kind of turn things around and process them and whatever it is you got to do, like you realize you're probably pretty lucky to go through what you've gone through because like our experiences are like stepping stones to get to where we want to go and feel how we want to feel and be who we want to be. Like, yeah, so I've lived a pretty lucky life in that way.
yeah. Your life as a movie has definitely had a lot of cliffhangers, hasn't it?
Yeah, man. And
Yeah,
look, I've gained more control
yeah,
in recent years. So who
yeah,
knows what happens later, man? But at least I feel better in my journey now because I think I used to come out of each year or whatever it is going, oh, I should have done better. Or, why do you not feel enough about yourself? Why do you not believe enough in yourself or whatever it is? Why did you let that person talk to you like that? Or why didn't you talk to that person or whatever it is? Now, like I don't live that way anymore. Like if there was any regret at all, it would be just the regret of just, I don't know, like not believing in myself enough. But it's nowhere near as
Mm.
impactful as what it used to be. Like I used to fucking hate myself, man. I used to fundamentally hate myself, and I used to think other people didn't like me as well. That's how I used to think.
Yeah.
And so, like,
Yeah.
I guess, yeah, I think very differently now. Like, I guess mine and your journey as well. We don't get to an end point, but we just keep evolving over time. And like, I think that's what can sustain, just making those little improvements over time.
Yeah, my focus for the past, I'd like to say year and a half, has always been the hunger to want more for myself. Rather
Yeah,
than settling on very little. Like on
yeah,
my goals board at the start of the year, I had survived 2023, and
yeah.
I
Okay.
spoke to a mate, and he goes, yeah, that's well and good putting survive, but why not put thrive 2023?
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah, for sure.
I was like, mate, that is unreal, Like that's so true because like we mentioned before, putting down survive 2023, I was already self-sabotaging myself and setting
Yeah,
myself up, getting ready for bad things to happen.
yeah, totally. I,
Yeah.
I love that. One of the things I've noticed about you is like I noticed it in the last, maybe it's the last month or two. I don't know what it is, but it's like on your videos and that kind of stuff. I'm like, this guy has got something cool about him. I don't know exactly what it is, but he's got a
Yeah.
cool energy. And for, like, you said you were 20. I didn't know. I guess I didn't know how young you were, but I'm like, there's something about there's something about you. And so what I wanted to ask you was like,
Yeah.
what has sustained you through, say, doing podcasts or whatever it is? Like, what is your passion? Your listeners might know about it, but I'd love to learn more about that.
Yeah,
What is it
well,
that gets you through, man?
it's interesting that, well, which is why wanted to have you on as well, mate, because I felt like even without knowing that our stories align somehow, and when I was younger as well, it was
Mm,
full of telling myself I wasn't enough. Like
yeah.
my parents separated at a young age, and my whole schooling. So I'm not sure what it's called over in Oz, but primary
Mm,
schools. So you got primary school, high school, and then university. So those
yeah.
are three
Same.
sections.
Same.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. So primary school, my whole primary school 8 years, I was the black sheep in the school. I even had people telling me that I was the reason my parents split up and that I was a
Mm,
mistake. And I still vividly remember being, I think I was 7 or 8, and I still
mm.
remember sitting on my bed and crying to my mum and asking her if I was a mistake because
Oh,
I was being
fucking
told
hell.
that so constantly that I had convinced myself.
Yeah.
Um, and it was halfway through high school. So I finished high school in 2020. So this would have been 2017 or
Mm-hmm.
2018, where I just had a lot of things built up from 12 years of everything just happening. Having issues with my old man and a lot of questions in that
Mm,
avenue and questioning myself and if I was worth even being around or what was the point of even keep on going because
mm.
my whole childhood as I knew it was constantly being told I wasn't worthy, so I must not be worthy. So
Yeah.
I tried to do the irreversible and take my life one night, and the week after I had a close family member that took his life. And
Mm,
at his service, the whole chapel was full, and the service room was full, and they had to put monitor screens outside because there was that many people. And it made
mm,
me realize that without even knowing it, you have all these people that you might even not spoken to for 2, 3, 4 years. All these people you don't see, I don't
mm,
know, less than once a year, but they still care about you. You feel like no one gives a shit about you, and you
mm,
feel like that there's no reason for you to be around because no one will care. But that chapel full of people made me realize that there's people that you don't even realize care about you. So
mm,
it got to near the end of high school, and the high school I went to in West Auckland, it was filled with a lot of guys and girls, especially guys who couldn't express how they're feeling even at home.
mm,
Just that kind of demographic, and I was the only really guy there that all the lads could come up to and speak to, knowing that I'd gone through a lot younger and that I wasn't afraid to be open about my emotions and that I wouldn't judge them. So
mm,
it made me realize that I could turn a lot of my bad into good, and like yourself,
mm,
mate, and share it. That was a big
mm,
thing, is share it. So I started this journey in 2020 with the mindset of hopefully being able to give answers to people's questions where they feel like there wasn't even answers and make them realize
mm,
that they weren't alone. So
Yeah.
at the moment, I will say I've done a lot of self-healing. I'm still doing self-healing every week. Still doing a lot of self-healing, but a lot like yourself, mate. What I'm doing now is it's proving my younger self that there was a reason to stay around, and that no matter how much I told myself I was worthless, that in the end, pushing on and actually not giving up on myself and backing myself proved that I was worth some worth, and that I do have some value to myself, and that everything that I survived day to day actually allowed me to connect with so many amazing people like yourself, and able to help people realize that there is a reason why they're breathing every day, and there's a reason for them to get out of bed, and there's a reason for them to fight for those goals they want to achieve, no matter what they're telling themselves or what the people around them are telling them, that there is a reason that they have to keep on chugging along.
Mm.
So
Man,
that's my why, mate.
I fucking love that so much, man. I know within that you've explained some really kind of dark places you would have been
Yeah.
and other people would have been, but I love how you express that. And like for someone that is 20 to be able to talk like that, man, you are a very special person.
Thank you,
Like
mate.
absolutely. Like yeah, that's really cool. I love I guess when people can have those reflective moments, even though it was like, yeah, obviously came out of something that wasn't great, but to be able to go, look what look what can happen when people kind of do take their life. Look, they don't realize
Yeah,
they
mate,
don't
exactly.
realize, and but then that's kind of that's just how people think in those moments. They think people are like they're almost got that um programming to think that they're going to be better off when people aren't around and all that kind of stuff, which is obviously completely wrong. But that's for some reason that's just how people think, and hopefully, like doing what you're doing and speaking about it like that is can change people's mindsets. And I think someone like yourself who I do get this. As I said, I get this thing from him. Like that guy's got something cool about him. Like I get this, definitely a strength in there as well. Like there's a toughness there as well. But I think maybe you're that newer kind of toughness, which is like someone who can be tough, but
Mm.
also be that vulnerable as well. And I like like when I think it depends on who puts the messages out. Like if like if a male or like, people like yourself and myself, like if we were like, not very like, I don't know, we didn't take care of ourselves, where, we just, we're kind of just lazy people, and we're just like, be vulnerable, and just no one's gonna listen.
Yeah, yeah,
It's like the people that can be fit, they can be healthy, they can eat well, they can stick to a passion, they can be nice, they can be like go through tough things, and they can still be switched onto emotions and still be tough.
yeah,
That's the new kind of tough. That's the
yeah.
new kind of like I guess what I would consider masculine. I don't know,
Masculine. Yeah, bro.
masculine and
Yep.
masculine and feminine gets thrown around so much, but I guess that's what being. I won't say a man because but that's what feeling a masculine feels like to me, and it's like
Yeah.
that's what the thing is. Like if you can have like incredibly tough things going on, and if you can feel them, and then you can switch off and listen to someone. Like it's not just can you go out to a pub and punch someone, or it's like obviously if you can get into a fight and handle yourself, that's a strong thing as well. But obviously, like, but if you can also be a good dad, be
Yeah,
a good
yeah.
dad, like man, that kind of stuff. That's the importance of. But if we want to reach a message to like tough guys, like strong people, we've got to be strong as well. If we're these like soft guys that like don't exercise, don't care of themselves, no, they're fucking people aren't going to listen to that.
Mm.
So I think you've got to, we're on a good platform, I think, to hopefully more people listen. And I actually get a lot of guys from my area that I'm like, fuck, they used to be the tough guys that I used to know growing up, and they're like, I really like your stuff, and I'm like, fuck, that's good, I like that.
Tables have turned, eh?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I,
mate.
I was probably scared of him back in the day, but no, it's changed. It's changed now. Like I earned some respect for myself, so yeah, it's a bit different. So yeah, it's
No,
been good.
I'd love to finish it off, mate, with, imagine your life to this point has been a film, right? Someone's been following you around for your life, and to finish off the film, the closing scene, if you could give a piece of advice maybe to yourself in the future,
Yeah.
maybe advice to your past self, or to the young guy or girl at home tuning in, to
Mm.
finish off your movie, mate, what would it be?
I think my favorite message to give out to people is like, particularly if you're in your 20s, like you've gone through your teens, you're in your 20s, 30s, or 40s, whatever it is, but just question everything that you think
Mm,
about yourself, question everything you think about the world, and question everything you think about other people, because there's a potential that you grew up in a world that wasn't nurturing to a positive mindset, it wasn't nurturing to a loving mindset, or whatever it is. You might not have felt love, or felt like you were nurtured, or felt like people gave you positive attention, whatever it may be. But because of how that can lead people to think they're not good enough, or not, not worthy of things, whatever it may be. And they might not even realize it. They might, people might just have natural feelings of I'm not good enough, but they don't question it. They just think that's fact. I want people to question how they think about themselves, and then maybe why they might think that way. Because when you can start to go, hang on a second, I've got like a belief system that somebody else gave me, or other people gave me, and I had nothing to do with it. Through experience when I was younger, particularly, I question it, because you can really make some fucking massive changes in your life. So question everything. Question the way you think about yourself. Question the way you think about the world, and question the way you think about other people. And I think, once you do some digging there, you can realize really some significant ways to make some really positive changes in your life.
what a way to finish it off, mate. Thank you for that.
Thanks so much, man.
And thank you for joining me today for the chat, mate. Really, really appreciate it. I mean, it looks like it's good weather over there, so appreciate it on your sunny
Yeah.
arvo.
Yeah, it is a good one. I'm going to walk home now, so we're just about to. Well, we're just into autumn now, so some of the warmer days are going to start going away. But
Yeah,
man,
yeah.
it's been an absolute pleasure. I've loved chatting to you. As I said, there's something really special about yourself. And for someone who's only 20, you're doing some pretty cool stuff. So yeah, it's been a great to meet you and chat to you like this.
Thank you, mate. I think I'm gonna have to save up and take a flight over to Melbourne, mate. I
Oh man,
genuinely mean that. I
I'd
think I
really
might
love
have
to meet
to.
you. I'm definitely going to have to come to New Zealand. There's some people over there I'd love to meet as well. To be able to catch up with you in person, particularly someone that's on like a similar journey to me, to putting good messages out. I'd love to be able to meet people like yourself in person. That's for sure.
Yeah, we'll have to tee it up.
Absolutely.
All right, guys. If you loved what we had to say this conversation today, you can head over and check James over at the Mind Tradie. All of his links and tags will be in the description. You can go listen to that handsome man speak and motivate you for your days. But as always, guys, do what makes you happy. Do what you know is right, and do what you need to do for you. And as always, love yourself. I'll see you next week. See you later.